Welcome to the Entrepreneur Coach podcast. I'm the Entrepreneur Coach, Bri Seeley. My mission is to help female entrepreneurs like you have the audacity to believe in the inevitability of your success, then to gather the resources, tools, and knowledge you need to create your most aligned and profitable pathway to your vision of success. This podcast is all about providing you with a nitty-gritty behind-the-scenes look at what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur. Forget the success porn and the rags to riches stories. Each episode will pull back the curtain and share the reality of entrepreneurship. I cannot wait to be part of your journey. Hey there, Entrepreneur Bri Seeley here. I am super excited for today's episode because I have decided to retire from the Success Becomes Me brand when it comes to my podcast and relaunch my podcast with a new name, which you may have seen when you logged into your app this morning, assuming you are a current subscriber. So I wanted to talk a little bit about this shift, about why some of you have heard some of the episodes. I've been going through a personal reckoning since about April. Generally, these things take about 6 months to land. It's currently October 24th when I'm recording this, so about on schedule. And so I want to talk about the backstory of kind of what I've been hearing over the last several months from entrepreneurs and why the shift in this, and then kind of where the podcast is going to go from here. So I have been just having so many conversations with so many women in all stages of entrepreneurship, entrepreneur, solopreneur, entrepreneur. And I covered this in an episode a few months ago about the success paradox, about how all of these super highly accomplished, very adept, ambitious women are constantly feeling like they're behind, like they're failing, like there is something wrong with them. And so I started diving into this concept of success and why women are not elevated more when it comes to being entrepreneurs and being successful entrepreneurs, and the stories that we tell ourselves around what it's supposed to look like and how we're doing it wrong, and just all of the kind of nitty-gritty stuff. I think the words that I used in the new description for it is radical transparency, because I think we look at a lot of these entrepreneurs, a lot of these just successful women in general, and we have assumptions about what their lives look like, what their journey has looked like. It is vulnerable for us to come out and say exactly what we're going through in any moment. No one ever fully knows the depths of our own personal journeys. But I feel like if we continue along this path, if those of us that are, a few steps ahead of the people that are a few steps behind us continue to make light of the journey, or don't fully transparently share all of the ins and outs of what it truly looks like to build, a large brand or a large business or make a lot of money, I think that we're gonna do a detriment to each other and to ourselves. I, in redoing the podcast, have really been sitting down with okay, if I were to wave a magic wand and have 20 ideal guests, who would I have? So I got through currently about 15. And I was like, well, let me look on Amazon and search business books and see who the top female authors are for business books that just come up in an organic search on Amazon. And then maybe I'll have them on as guests. Y'all, I scrolled on my phone for a full 3 to 4 minutes, reading every single title and author that came up in my search results for 3 to 4 minutes. There was one book written by a woman that was a business book. She had 2 male co-authors. And then there was another book that came up that was not a business book, that was written by a woman. Now, there were sponsored posts that came up. If you go on and search right now, you'll see some sponsored posts written by women. But for 3 to 4 minutes, I scrolled. And there was not a single business book written by a woman. Now, I know that some of you listening to this right now have things to say about business. And my question is, why are we holding ourselves back? Why are we not allowing ourselves to step into the fullness that is available to us as female entrepreneurs? And I think a lot of it is that there are not a lot of really great, I don't want to say mentors, but like examples out there of the nitty-gritty of how women have done this for themselves in their businesses. Don't get me wrong, there is a lot of rags to riches stories out there. There's a lot of, I just learned a new term yesterday, success porn out there. There is very little reality when it comes to women transparently sharing their journey to build largely profitable businesses, or even just women being entrepreneurs. Feel like there's this sense that we need to have it all together. We need to have it all figured out. We need to be at our destination before we can share the journey. And I get that there are some vulnerable things, right? Like people talk about share the scab, not the wound, or the scar, not the wound. And I get that. There are some things that I am holding to my chest that I'm not fully ready to reveal yet. But at the same time, there's a lot that I've gone through and that the guests that I want to have on have gone through that is insanely valuable for you in your journey. Because the thing that I want the most for female entrepreneurs is to realize that just because you're not there yet, there's nothing wrong with you. Just because the pathway is looking different than you thought it was going to look, you're not doing it wrong. Just because so-and-so told you that you have to do this thing and that's the one thing and you can make all your dreams and goals come true if you just follow their system and you do it and you don't get the results that you hoped for, it's not you. I think there's just so many misconceptions about this journey. And the thing that I found more than anything is that especially with ambitious women, when we hit a bump in the road, we don't look at the road and say, oh, there's a pothole there. Or, oh, there was a speed bump there that I just hit. We immediately turn it back around on ourselves and say, what's wrong with me? So in rebranding this podcast to the Entrepreneur Coach Podcast, I want to pull back all the veils. I want to transparently show what the journey looks like for the majority of female entrepreneurs. And at the same time, I want to give you what you need to have the audacity to believe in your success and to believe in the inevitability of your success. Now, sometimes that doesn't look like we want it to look, but each of us has a pathway. Each of us has a vision at the end, or I won't even say at the end because there is no end. I'm reading a book right now, and it's a Mary Magdalene book, and one of the chapters talks about how the whole point is that there is no end. I know personally in my journey over the last 8 years, I've been kind of waiting till this moment when I like make it, right? When I don't have to do so much to be getting clients or do so much to be maintaining my business. And I think that what I've come to realize is that's a bit of a misnomer. Yes, at some point, like I have a team, I'll have a bigger team, like there's more ways to offload things, but you look at some of the most successful women in my industry, other industries, they're constantly reiterating, launching something new, trying something new, putting out something new. I even had kind of a reckoning moment this year where I was like, I've been selling the same programs in my business since 2017. Like, I've not put anything new out. since 2017. So my understanding of entrepreneurship is evolving, as I think it will continue to evolve through the rest of my life and my journey. But what I really truly want is to normalize for each and every one of you what this journey looks like and how this journey can unfold in a really beautiful way that doesn't require perfection, and that has you knowing and understanding that there is no there, and your path is your path. No one can tell you that you're on the right or wrong path. People can help unveil the path for you. That's my job. Think of myself as kind of like a success doula. So we have to really get in there and really figure out, like, what is that vision of success, and then kind of put all the pathways on the table and say which one feels most aligned for you. And that's what I want for every listener of this podcast. I want female entrepreneurs to rise up. I want us to claim what's ours. I want us to have the audacity to go after our biggest visions. I want all of us to get rid of the naysayers inside of our heads. I want all of us to be surrounded by the most uplifting, powerful women, rather than the people in our lives that tell us that we can't do what we want to do. I want all of us to be able to rise up and thrive. And that's the new vibe of this podcast. It is going to be me sharing my journey, sometimes in hindsight, sometimes as I'm going through it. It's going to be me sharing my expertise in entrepreneurship, what I've learned. And also it's going to be pulling back the curtain and having other female entrepreneurs on to share their personal journeys. As always, it's an explicit podcast. If you've been listening to me for a while, you know that I love the F word. Lots of pure, unfiltered realness, experience, anecdotes, visions, journeys, insights. More than anything, though, what I would like to offer you is a truly nitty-gritty, unfiltered, radically transparent podcast that helps you to know and understand what female entrepreneurs are really experiencing out there. It's a lot. It's overwhelming some days. Since the conference, have had days of complete, total, utter paralysis. Leading up to the podcast, there were some episodes that just never got published because the level of stress I was experiencing and the amount of things on my plate, my board's plate, my assistant's plate was just way too much. And actually let's go there for just a minute too, because so the conference happened about a month ago. And I've had so many people, I just had another text today be like, girl, I've been thinking about you. How is the event? And I say this again to give you that, like, pulling back the curtain and seeing the reality of what happened with that event. Because on one hand, it was incredible. The event was amazing. Every single person that was in that room or virtual will tell you, and has told me and can tell you, I have emails that bring me to tears because of the level of impact that the event had in these women's lives. And the event itself was absolutely amazing. All of the speakers brought their A games. Annie P. Ruggles went online afterwards and said, I just gave the best keynote of my career, and it was 100% true. Everyone was engaged. I had actually speakers say to me, we had movement breaks throughout, and she was like, yeah, I fully expected everyone to just sit and like watch the movement break. She said, I have never seen a more engaged audience. Your audience was in it. They were participatory, they were engaged, they did all the things. Like, it was an incredible event. And so what I'm about to share with you is surprising for a lot of people because I have had very mixed emotions coming off of the conference, and I'm getting emotional talking about it. You know, we didn't hit our goals. We didn't hit our projections. Our expenses were much higher than they needed to be or should have been. I learned that in Tulsa, women here are not accustomed to 2-day events. They do not see the value or the benefit of taking 2 days to work on themselves. Just is not part of the culture here, which is something I didn't know beforehand. There were so many things that happened behind the scenes that so many people don't know, that stepping back from all of it is really hard for me, because I've been basically holding the two ends, the two like radically opposite ends of the spectrum since the event happened. This one end where it was a fucking incredible event and everyone who attended got value out of it, and the fact that we didn't meet our goals, we didn't meet our projections, there's still a lot left to do and take care of. And this is where instinctively my brain wants to go into fail mode. And this is one of the things about our human brain, is that it's very either or. It's very black or white. It is one experience or the other experience. And as humans, we have a very difficult time holding both at the same time. And the truth is that it can have been an absolutely amazing event that everyone got value out of while still not meeting my expectations. So I've been going through over the last month just kind of this internal reckoning of, was it a success? Was it a failure? What does that mean? What does it mean about me? What does it mean about doing the event next year? Which, by the way, we already launched tickets. It's a lot. And I have not wanted to super publicly share that I was disappointed with the event, because I didn't want it to color or negatively impact the value that it did bring to people's lives. And this more often, I think, is the case with success and failure, is that it's not either successful or a failure. I think that everything we do as entrepreneurs is always a mix of both. You know, this one was maybe, in my mind, I'm like 50-50. It's probably like 60-40 or 70-30. But nothing ever goes 100% as planned, which means that I don't know if anything is ever 100% a success, and nothing ever 100% fails without some sort of learning or something. Like, I don't think anything is ever 100% failure either. So how do we as entrepreneurs navigate these two ends of the spectrum and allow it to be more in the middle than an either or experience? And then how do we separate what happened from who we are and what our value is? It's a really interesting dynamic that, frankly, I'm still exploring. If you're watching this on video, you can see right behind me my meditation cushion with all of my notebooks and my headphones, and I've spent a lot of time journaling and in meditation over the last month, trying to find my truth in all of this and detangle the stories about my value and my worthiness in relation to what unfolded with the event. So there you go. Your very first behind the curtain into the mind of a for-profit founder and nonprofit founder. I hope that it was valuable to you. If it was, I would love to hear from you. Feel free to drop a comment wherever you're watching this, or if there's not a comment available, come find me on Instagram, send me a DM, a voice memo. Voice memos are my love language. Would love to know what resonated with you from this and what you want to do with this wisdom in terms of applying it to your experience as a female entrepreneur. Last but not least, if this resonated with you, I have two quick, very small requests for you. One, please go on to your platform of choice and rate and review this. If that's Spotify, if that's Amazon Music, if that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, please go on, rate and review this, the podcast. And if you know of a female entrepreneur who needs a little radical transparency in her life from some entrepreneurs who have been there and done that, please, please, please share this episode with her as well. So cheers to a new era of this podcast. Thanks for joining. Please rate and review, and I will see you on next week's episode. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Entrepreneur Coach podcast. I hope you gained valuable wisdom from this episode and have at least one thing you can act on today. As I always say, listening to this episode will not change your life. What you do afterwards will. Please be sure to leave a rating and a review of the show, and don't forget to share this episode with a friend or colleague who could use it. Last but not least, please have the audacity to believe in the inevitability of your success today. You deserve it.